So I refused to get TikTok. My mom and dad like was like, "Hey man, you should probably get this app." I was like, "No." Everybody had it. So I was always that kid like, if everybody was wearing one brand, I was gonna wear a different brand.
Well, nice to meet you, Austin. I'm Adam, and this is about you and your journey in music. And we'll talk about the new music you've put out. Obviously, the big announcement you made on Halloween a couple days ago with
Yeah.
CAA, and I did hear a song I think that you have coming out in next month in December as well.
Yes. We got a couple new releases. We're putting out music just so aggressive, It's
That's
hard for me to even
awesome.
keep up with them at times. We had a release, up here a while back, and I found out the day it come out. I totally forgot we was putting music out that day. And like I
Oh
saw it on
man, you're like,
Instagram.
wait a
We're putting
minute.
it yeah, we're putting it out so fast I can't even keep up with it.
That's awesome though. That's
Yeah,
incredible.
man, it's a blast, dude. It's been
Very,
fun.
very cool. So originally from Pleasant View, is that what I saw?
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. Talk to me
Born and
about that. I
raised.
mean, I'd moved to Nashville or south of Nashville. I live in like Williamson County
Okay,
about 2 years, almost 3 years ago, actually, now from San Diego. But
I got
I
you.
love it here. So talk to me about Pleasant View. I don't know much about it. I don't really
Yeah, man,
know a
it's
whole
just
lot about Tennessee, but I know it's north of me.
yeah, it's kind of like, small town. I'm dead in between Nashville and Clarksville, so I kind of grew up, getting to go to Nashville, stuff like that. And then, we kind of grew up, tobacco farmers and stuff like that. It's kind of,
Oh,
you know,
wow.
the going thing is you either, farm tobacco or, drive to a job in Nashville, you know.
Okay.
So that was what I grew up doing. And then playing ball, sports here is a big thing. But
Sure.
I think the biggest plus to growing up here, is there's so many people in the music industry that live out this way.
Oh, yeah.
Like, cause I mean, you're out, that's the cool thing about Nashville. When I talk about Nashville to people, is it's the cool thing about Nashville is you can be 30 minutes out of town in the middle of nowhere, but then you can be to a major city in 30 minutes, but 30 minutes out, you feel like you're in the middle of nowhere. And
Right.
so, that was kind of the cool thing about growing up here is, people move out here, to do country music because most people that do country music are from the country. So they don't want to live in the city. They want to live out, out in the middle of nowhere. So I grew up with guys, that played baseball with kids and their dads would, be songwriters.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, I had a bunch of, kids that I grew up with, played baseball with, and all their dads were songwriters. And, I had guys in my family, or, that my family was close to that were songwriters. So I got to grow up like a lot around the business and not even try to be around the business. It's just always around you. So
Yeah.
that was a huge plus when I decided to start, writing songs and try to take it serious. They were the first ones to be like, okay, I can help you.
Yeah, at least some people that have been successful in it, right? It wasn't like, "I
Exactly.
know no one, how do I even begin to do this?"
Exactly, and they gave me a lot of, and it made me it made me a better writer, is
Mhm.
in the fact of like I got to write with great writers starting out. I
Mm.
started out writing with really good writers, so I had to learn how to either get good or be out of place.
Right. Was
It's kind of like when you play on that baseball team that you're not good enough to play on, so you either have to learn to get better or you're going to look out of place.
Oh, yeah, you're getting cut from the team.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, my son's plays baseball,
Okay,
here
yeah.
in Williamson County. He loves it. Are you in Nashville now, or are you still
No, I
in
still
Pleasant
live in
View?
my hometown. Yeah, I still live in my
Oh, that's
hometown.
cool.
I thought, I hear everybody in town talk about how much they want to go home every now and then and stuff like that. And it's like, dude, if I could drive 30 minutes and be home, I'm going to drive it.
Yeah, yeah,
You
100%.
know,
Exactly. And
so
then you're still close enough to come into Nashville, do everything you
yeah.
need to do.
And that 30-minute drive, everyone's so peaceful. Getting to drive in, driving back's not as peaceful because you hit Nashville traffic. And about the time you get out of Nashville traffic, you hit Clarksville traffic.
Oh, sure. You're
But
kinda
yeah,
stuck in the between the 2, huh?
yeah, for sure.
Oh, wow. So coming, do you come from like a farming family? Did your parents or your family farm
Yeah, so
tobacco?
my
Oh,
dad's uncle and stuff like that, all of them, they farmed, and then
wow.
my dad kinda got into it, and then the farm kinda grew big enough that my dad either had to quit his job as an engineer or, like,
Oh, wow.
to be a full-time farmer or go be an engineer, and so he ended up just sticking with his engineer job 'cause, he's been there since he was young, so, he can retire at a pretty young age, so he was like, "Might as well do that, then we can reassess the farming situation after I retire."
Oh, okay. Did you grow up on the
But
farm then? Did you grow up working
yeah,
on the farm?
I kinda grew up around it, trying to, help out when I was little and stuff like that.
That's cool. And
Um,
with you know, growing up with, it sounds like your friends that you grew up with, played baseball with,
yeah.
having their parents be songwriters, was that something like were you introduced to music at an early age? Like, did either of your parents play music or
Yeah. So my mom's godfather, his name was Ray Pennington, and he owned a record label in town, and
wow.
he uh he produced guys like Gene Watson and Farron Young and Ray Price, and he wrote
Oh
some
wow.
songs for Willie Nelson and Johnny Paycheck, and he had a big one
Dang.
with Waylon Jennings called Ramblin' Man.
Oh, no
Um,
way.
yeah, so
So that was your wait, that's your mom's
my mom's godfather.
your mom's godfather? Oh my
Yeah, so he was
gosh.
always like really close, and so I grew up around him and kind of hearing the stories and seeing the plaques and stuff like that. That was
That's
kind of cool.
cool.
And then like along down the line of my dad's family, there was a guy named Albert Brumley. And Albert wrote the song "I Fly Away," the
Oh,
hymn.
wow. Yeah. Oh
And he
my
was in
gosh.
Bakersfield, California one time, and he met a guy that was just out of prison,
Mhm.
and he wanted to do country music, and he liked him, so he would let him open up for him. And that kid ended up being Merle Haggard.
Oh my god.
So like along the line, stuff happened where we would get backstage passes when Merle Haggard would play the Ryman.
No
So
way.
I got to grow up like, really close to music. And then my dad met these 3 guys, that was like they had just moved to town at a gas station in Pleasant View.
Mhm.
And, those 3 guys, one was Cole Swindell, one was, Adam Sanders, and another guy by the name of Brian Callahan. And they had all just moved here to do music, and, they wanted my dad to take them hunting one night. So yeah, that was kinda like I got to grow up so close, around it.
Wow,
But
wow.
not have any and I didn't have any inkling to do it, like, I never wanted to do it. It was just I grew up around it, I got to see it, so I just kinda fell in love with music itself, not really, like, wanting to do it, just loving to listen to it.
Yeah, and kinda being a part of it, right? Being able to
Yeah.
go backstage at a Merle Haggard concert or being able to meet these people and see the plaques and kinda see the success
Yeah.
and not really be, like, striving for it quite yet.
Exactly. Exactly. And,
Wow.
well, and I think the biggest plus was learning to not what to kinda keep it based around. And, how people lose their self in the music and kinda, end up changing their entire self. Like, I got to see, like, front hand, like, how that works,
Mhm.
which was cool. Like, how to handle it,
Yeah,
because it
kinda
is
be
like
humble and not like, "Okay, I
yeah.
signed this record deal, now I'm gonna go,
Exactly, because
wild."
I learned that getting a record deal is the easy part, it's keeping one, like, kind of
Yeah.
thing, like, those kinda little things, that I would always hear,
Mhm.
so it's kind of like, kinda hearing those stories, like, played into a lot of, like, knowing how to approach it all,
Yeah,
I feel like
yeah.
I've had a cool upper hand on, like, knowing, getting to see firsthand how to approach it,
Yeah, that's
you know?
amazing. That's cool, like, what a great, like, schooling you had for all of this, right?
Yeah, and didn't even know I was getting schooled for it, like
Right.
didn't even know I was getting schooled for it and was getting taught everything about it.
Mhm. I think that's cool that you said that, getting a record deal is the easy part. I mean, well, not really the easy part, but in so many words, like I interviewed somebody that said, you get signed to a deal and that's now you have a seat at the big table. Like it's almost
Yeah,
like you're at the kids table at Thanksgiving and then you get the deal and like, okay, now you're at the adult table. Now what are you gonna do with it? Like
exactly.
how are you
Yeah,
gonna,
how are you gonna react to being at the adult table?
right. Are you gonna be able to
You know?
succeed? Are you gonna be able to continue to do what you need to do?
Yeah,
Or are you gonna get kicked back down on the kids'
exactly.
table
Like,
for
I heard a
acting
thing
up?
the other day that made sense. I heard a thing the other day that made sense, and they were like, like, I signed a record. There's a guy, a friend of mine, he said, "I signed a record deal expecting to get on the radio." And
Mm.
he said, "I've been in a record deal for several years now." And he said, "I haven't made it to the radio."
Yeah.
He said, "Just because you signed a record deal don't guarantee anything.
Right,
That's just
right.
giving you that seat at the big table,
Mhm.
to see, like, if you can make it at the big table,
Yeah, it's like,
you
here's a
know?"
little bit of validation, so we
Yeah.
know that you could potentially do something, so let's see it. Let's see
Yeah,
you
it's
do.
like when you call up that guy from, the AAA ball that's doing really well, like, it doesn't automatically mean he's gonna go to the majors and do well,
Right, right. We'll give you
Like,
one
he might
shot. Are you gonna choke? Or are you gonna be able to
Yeah,
get a couple hits and we'll
exactly.
keep you around?
Exactly, yeah.
Wow. So you played baseball, I mean, most of
Yeah,
your
so
life. I mean, up till
yeah, so
you're
I
you're
was,
15 or 16 or something?
yeah, man, I grew up playing ball since I was a kid, and I got to my senior year of high school, and I was going to play college baseball at a mid-major D1 school,
Oh,
and,
wow.
I it just kind of, I looked in the mirror one day and I was like, because, baseball scholarships aren't in full. So I was
Mhm.
going to have to, pay a little bit to go to school. And I was going to have to, get a degree that I didn't really want to use because I wanted to do music after college. And then I just, finally, I looked in the mirror one day and I was like, I'm not going to play pro baseball. I'm 5'9". I was like, I'm going to be real with myself. The chances of me playing pro baseball are slim to none.
Mhm.
I'm undersized. And I was like, that's hard to overcome, in a game where size makes a big deal. So I was like, all right. I was like, there's guys that do it, but more times than not, they don't. So I was like,
Right.
if I'm not going to go play pro baseball, why waste time and money on something when I'm not going to use it? Because I'm just going to come back and do music. So
So
why
you
don't
knew
I?
you wanted to do music at that point anyway. You
Yeah,
were
by
already
my
like,
senior year of high school, I was like, I wanted to do music. Like baseball was my number one, and then
mhm.
music was my number two.
Okay.
And it was like I was going to go spend a lot, and I was like, I wanted to play pro baseball, and then finally I was like, I'm not big enough. Like I could possibly go and do it. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Uh, I mean, there's obviously a lot of guys undersized that make it.
Yeah.
But the chances of that are slim to none.
Right.
So
What position do you play? I'm just
I
curious.
was an outfielder.
Okay.
I was an outfielder. Uh, I was more of a corner outfielder, but I played a little bit of center field.
Okay.
Uh,
I'm
and
thinking the
so
guys that aren't very tall or yeah, like the person that comes to mind for me is like Tim Lincecum. He's under six. He's like 5'10", or
yeah,
he was a hell of a pitcher, but he wasn't. I mean,
yeah,
that's all he needed to do, right?
yeah. I mean, you got the Altuves and the Pedroias and all that. I mean, if I was right-handed, it would have made life a lot easier
Oh,
because
really? You're a lefty.
yeah, I'm a
My
lefty. So
son's a
that
lefty, and I'm a lefty. That it
okay,
makes
yeah,
it easier, harder if you're lefty, just because
yeah, because I
unless you're
couldn't
a
really play
first
so many
baseman.
places I can play. You're either 6'4" and play first base. You either throw it 90 and you're a pitcher, or you're in the outfield. Like, you
Okay.
know, or you're in
Yeah.
the outfield. Uh,
Interesting.
so like that was kind of what killed me as a lefty, playing the field as a lefty. And
Mhm.
you've got, 5 spots on the field you can play.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's interesting. I didn't think about that because I was like, oh, that's an advantage that he's left-handed. But my son's not gonna be. I'm only 5'9", and my wife's like 5'2", so he's
yeah,
probably not gonna be a first baseman.
exactly. So like that was the problem I ran into was I was short and left-handed.
Yeah.
Don't work.
Oh, interesting.
Um, so I finally was like, chances of me playing pro baseball are slim to none. So I'm gonna cut out the middleman and just go ahead and do music.
Hmm.
And so
And
it
at
kind
that
of
point, you knew because you had to have a surgery, right? I
yeah,
know that.
I had a
Yeah.
surgery my 8th grade year of middle school. I had a
Okay.
spine. I was born with congenital scoliosis, and I had a spinal fusion to kind of fix that and stop that from getting worse.
Oh my gosh. I've had 4 fusions in my cervical spine, so
Okay,
I know how that goes, man. That's
yeah,
rough.
yeah,
Rough.
man, it was a tough process for sure. But the hospital I had it at was amazing, and they did an amazing job, and it made kind of the healing process a lot easier than it should have been. And I was
Mhm.
so young that it made it a lot easier. Yeah,
Yeah. At that point, you were just playing baseball, and was that
yeah,
when you
man.
started to write music or start
Yeah,
learning
so it was
guitar and
kind of
everything?
around that time I was a baseball, football, and basketball player up to
Okay.
that point, and
And
then
that
I
just
had
takes
that
you out, obviously, for a
yeah,
while.
and then yeah, so that took me out of football. I was done. Uh, so after that, I had so much downtime. Um, just kind of, I was down for I think I was down for like 3 or 4 months.
Mhm.
And it was during that 3 and 4 months, like I finally watched all the sports channels and cooking shows I could watch. So I was like, I started just like listening to music and kind of humming around to the songs. And finally, I got, tired of singing everybody else's songs. So I want to write a song.
Mhm.
So I wrote a song, and the, I guess the worst part about growing up around really great songwriters was I knew what a good and bad song was.
Mm,
So
sure.
I knew that the song was really bad. So I was like, maybe this isn't for me, you know? And at the time, I didn't realize that everybody's first songs were really bad.
Right. You gotta
Like these
go
guys have
start
been doing it for
somewhere.
20 years,
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, like that's not for me. I'm going to put that back down. And then like I got through my 8th grade year, my freshman year of high school, I was the new kid at the school. I didn't really, and, in a time where like, talking to people, freshman year is hard for anybody. And
Mhm.
so I was kind of that new kid at the school, and For a project, we had to write a song. And so I
Oh,
wrote a
wow.
song.
In
Yeah, it's kind
school.
of that's where it started. They had a project, and the project was to write a song. And so I wrote a song, and I learned that I could express myself through those songs. And, and I was looking for a way to express myself at the time, because I was the new kid. I didn't have nobody to talk to. And so I just started writing songs all the time to express myself. And it became like a less of if they're good or bad. I knew they were bad still, but it didn't matter because I was just trying to express myself. I was just trying to get my feelings out, whether they were good or bad.
Mhm.
And then I didn't realize at the time that the more you do that, the better you get at it.
Sure,
And
sure.
so I was doing it for a whole nother reason, and then I got good at it or
And
better at it.
when did you when does that shift? Like when does it become like, oh, these are actually getting really good?
Well,
Or
I didn't
did you
even
get
know it at the
validation
time.
or yeah,
I
okay.
didn't
Sorry, go
even
ahead.
know it at the time. It was somebody else that was like, "Man, you're not bad at this," and they became more well put together.
Mhm.
I kind of learned like how they were supposed to put together, and I was able to like sing them and be like, "Oh, that kind of sounds like what's on the radio," you know,
Mm.
like
Mhm.
kind of thing. Like when you start to and you like, "Oh, this doesn't sound corny," like at first they start to, they're kind of corny and they don't really make full sense or and then you start doing it and you're like, "Oh, that doesn't sound as corny." Like maybe this is progressing.
Yeah.
But at the time, like I really obviously didn't even almost know that I was progressing at it because I wasn't trying to look at if they were good or not.
Mhm.
It was solely for the fact of I was just trying to express myself. There was no if there was good, like I didn't care if they were good because nobody else was ever going to hear them. They were solely for me. And then I met a guy, and then I started singing. I was watching American Idol, and there was a guy on American Idol, and I sounded like him, and I thought I sounded like him, and I
Uh-huh.
was like, well, maybe I can sing. And then so I started just singing more and more, and like I wasn't really good, but I was, I could carry a tune,
Mhm.
and so I didn't know how to like get into the artist thing. Like I knew how to do the songwriter thing because I grew up around a lot of songwriters, but I never grew up around a lot of artists. Uh, so it was like I don't really know like how to do that. So I got this idea that I was just going to sing for anybody that would listen,
And
anybody that
sing
would
your
listen.
song.
Well, no, at that time I was just
Oh,
going to like show my voice to anybody that would listen.
okay.
So there was this local little bar, like bar and grill, that had karaoke every Wednesday night, and I would go sing karaoke every Wednesday night, just so like maybe like people would hear me sing.
Uh-huh.
Uh, and then it come full circle. I was sitting in a place one night, and some guy that wrote songs was in there and heard me sing.
At that karaoke bar?
Yeah, at the
No
karaoke bar.
way.
It
So it
was a guy.
worked.
Yeah, it worked. And so he asked if I'd ever wrote any songs. So then I got to show him the songs I'd written. And so then we started writing songs together uh, all the time. Like we wrote a
Mhm.
bunch of songs together. Um, and so then he started showing me to his friends in the music business. And he introduced me to guys like Mo Pitney and stuff like that. Some guys that kind of, helped me out and stuff like that and
Mhm.
became like really big influences in my life. And so man, he kind of started it all.
And did
Uh,
he help you, like, really become an artist then? Because I know, obviously, you had, "Wanna Be Saved," which is a massive, massive
yeah.
song. But before that, you put out a handful of songs
Yeah, so
in
he kind of,
2022 leading
me
up
and
to
him
that.
wrote the first ones together. The "Are You Really Gone," which was the first single ever. Me and him wrote
Mhm.
together, and then we wrote the comeback song together. And we wrote so many songs, but I think those are the only twos that been cut so far. But he just like he kind of got me started, and kind of like he was the first person to tell me that had ever been around the music business, like, hey, you can do this,
Wow. Yeah, so
and
getting
like
that
I believe it.
validation is, like, yeah,
Yeah,
that
like that
huge.
that I believe like you are to try to make a career out of this because at that time I still hadn't like like I was trying to sing for people, but I really didn't know like if I could or how to make a career out of this.
Sure.
But he was the first person to tell me like, hey man, you got a shot.
Wow.
And
And that
so
must
like
have been massive, right? And then you're like,
yeah, and I was
"Okay."
16 at the time.
Oh, so this is even before you had graduated, the baseball
Yeah,
scholarship,
no,
all of that.
yeah. This was like 16, like 15, 16 years old. Like
Wow.
really young me. Yeah, I
Okay.
think this was my sophomore year of high school.
Okay.
That this kind of happened. So like that was like a huge thing for me. The fact
Yeah.
that like, oh, maybe I can do this.
And then
You know.
when do you go in and start recording your songs? Was that after you had graduated?
So No, that was like sophomore year,
Oh,
junior year
still, wow,
maybe.
so you're still
Yeah, it was like
young.
right there mid high school. I recorded a song. I put one song out while I was in high school, and I put a second one out, which was "Forever in Your Eyes." I think right after I graduated, and then my junior year, I put out, or no, then I put out a third one because I put out
Mhm.
three before I started working under this new management deal. Um,
Okay.
and so, I was still in high school for most of those. I was doing while I
Wow.
was in high school. I was doing a mediocre job of trying to manage sports, music and school
School.
because
Yeah.
I did a lot of the other two, but school. Uh,
Uh,
uh, so that was kind of, how that kind of rolled out.
yeah. Well, with I mean, because you're still fairly young. And or you're still really young. I don't want to offend you, but
Oh no, you're
like
good, man.
uh I heard you before I knew as far as like what you look like or your age, I was listening to your songs. It's like, and then I see you and I've seen your videos on Instagram. I mean, your voice, it doesn't
It
does
doesn't
match
match me.
now. But when I
Yeah,
heard it and I saw you, I was like, holy, this is not what I was expecting.
yeah, I
And
get
you have
that all
such
the
a
time.
like a mature, like, I mean, your voice is awesome, but it's not what I was expecting. And I was like, damn, like you sound like you've been doing this forever.
Yeah, man, dude, that I get that all the time. Like I have, and I think it comes from like as a kid, I would always like try to sound like Merle Haggard because I was
Okay.
a big Merle Haggard fan. So I would always try to sound like him. So it kind of developed into this thing where it's like, oh, it sounds more mature than it is.
Right. But
Uh,
it works, obviously, and you have
yeah,
a
even when I
killer
started like was
voice.
doing like the karaoke stuff, like I would still try to sound like Merle Haggard, like because that was like my hero at the time.
Sure.
So I would try to sound like him. So it kind of developed into this kind of deeper thing in the way I kind of like control my voice.
Mhm.
And I think like when I've said that to some people, like after I say that, they're like, I kind of hear it now, like and I do less of it now because we've kind of took this more pop route.
Mhm.
It's got a lot of rap influence in my stuff. So like that whole
Yeah.
like the whole deeper thing doesn't really fit as much. So I kind of just run with my own voice now, which is really cool, and I kind of love doing that. But
Mhm.
like that older stuff, like I can, I have a low range that a lot of people don't have because of I think that, trying to sing so deep, from a young age.
Yeah. And what then brought you to, because obviously TikTok has made a big impact on your
Yeah.
career. How do you like, was it you just knew everyone was posting on this app and you're like, oh, maybe I'll
No.
jump on to, like, how did that all start?
Yeah, man. I refused to get TikTok. My mom and dad like was like, "Hey, man, you should probably get this app." I was like, "No," because I
Oh
was always
wow,
the
they were
guy that like,
encouraging it because my kids, I'm
yeah,
like, get
and
off this like thing.
yeah, because
Poisoning your
like
head.
everybody had it. So I was always that kid, like, if everybody was wearing one brand, I was going to wear a different brand because I didn't want to get
Yeah,
on
I
with
love that.
everybody else.
Sure.
And so that was kind of why I wouldn't get it. Everybody had it. So I was like, I don't even want the app, like, even from just like a watching the app standpoint, because everybody has it.
Mhm.
And so, and then that little bar that I would sing karaoke at, they had live music on like Thursdays through Saturdays. And
Okay.
one of the people that would play in there all the time was Priscilla Block.
Okay.
And so I had talked to Priscilla after,
And she
and
had a
Priscilla,
big TikTok moment, right? Isn't
yes,
how she
yeah,
kind of
she's
got
got a
big?
really big TikTok following,
Yeah.
and she had just had her like first viral video,
Okay.
like at the time, and so she's the one who kind of got me on the app.
Really?
Yep, she's the
So,
one who got me on the app.
so she's like, you need to do this. And did
Yeah,
she
she was
help
like,
you sit you down and like you guys
no, she was
posted?
she was just like we sit there in the back of that little place, and she was like, listen, she was like, it's like the most expensive thing in like any business is advertisement,
Mhm.
and she was like, it's free advertisement, and all you have to do is post. She was
Yeah.
like, that's all you have to do is just post videos, and you have a chance of making it. And so she was the one who kind of got me on the app.
Were you doing any like as far before that? Were you posting videos of yourself on like Instagram or
Like
anything like that or Facebook or
kind
like?
of like a little bit. Like I couldn't even play guitar at the time. So like I was doing a little bit of stuff like on my personal Instagram, like for my
Okay.
friends type thing. Like I would
Yeah.
kind of do
Yeah.
that. So it was like a little bit of like a little bit, but not much.
Okay. And then
Not
you
much at
what?
all.
Like how long are you posting on there before stuff like blows up for you?
Man, it was like 2 years almost, like a
Oh,
year and a
wow.
half. Like it wasn't quick.
It was a grind.
Like I got it probably my sophomore year of high school, and like I had my first video do well like my senior year, into my senior year.
Was that with "Wanna Be Saved" or is this
No, no,
that
that
was
was
much
I did a cover
later?
song, so I sung to my girlfriend at the time, at prom. Like,
Oh,
during our
wow.
prom pictures, and it blew up, but it wasn't a good blow up, you know? It was one of those we got in the wrong algorithm.
Oh.
Yeah, and so that was, like, hard because, like, my first video that does well for the opposite reason, you know?
Oh, why people were just making fun of it or what?
Yeah, yeah, it was a
Oh,
lot of
man.
like, it wasn't a lot of good comments. Like, it was a lot of good comments, probably good more good than bad, but, like, being a 17-year-old kid, 18-year-old kid, like,
Yeah,
seeing
seeing that must be
seeing
rough.
it was
Yeah.
rough, yeah. But, there's a guy that I'm friends with now, I wasn't friends with at the time, Blake Moore. He goes by, like, BMO on TikTok, and he, like, has a really big TikTok following. And
Mhm.
I was a fan of his TikToks at the time, and he commented on my TikTok, like, like an encouraging comment kind of thing. And that was the only reason, like, really that kept me going. I don't even know if I've ever told him that, like, and it's cool, like, it's come full circle, like, we're friends now.
Wow.
And so,
Yeah,
like
because if it was just all hate, right, or even, like, half or more positive, but, like,
like,
it's
still, like,
still
60-40, you know?
yeah, but I mean, even, like, if you could have a 10,000 positive comments, like, at least for me, and then I'll get one negative one, and it just, like, eats me up. I'm like,
Yeah,
"God," you know?
especially at the time, I've kinda gotten away from that now because I've kinda, like, grew as myself as a person, and I'm like,
Sure.
I'm just gonna get on there and be me, you either like it or you don't.
Right,
I'm
right,
kinda
right.
like and
That's a
I'm
great
kind of like,
attitude.
yeah, like, I'm gonna be me, and if you and, I would rather you hate me for who I am than love me for who I'm not. That's kind of,
That's a great quote. I love that.
yeah, I'd either, and so, like, that's kinda I get on there and I be me,
Mhm.
and you're either gonna love it or you hate it, and if you hate it, like, that's good, and that's why there's more artists out there.
Sure.
That's why I'm not the only artist trying to do country music at the moment. That's why there's a lot. If you don't like my things, like, I'm not gonna get offended. That's why there's more of us.
Right, right,
But
right.
somebody might like us. So it's kind of like, that one comment though, like him giving that positive comment and me being a fan of his stuff. Like that's the only. I think that's really the only thing that kind of kept me going with it.
But it was
Uh,
yeah, I mean, it's wild. I mean, that would keep me going too. I mean, if somebody you look up to is like cuts through all the noise and is like,
yeah,
"Dude, this
like
is
it kind of
good,"
blinded
right?
out
You're
all
only
the
now you're focusing on that one person, like, "Oh my god, this guy, this person I like and follow and
yeah.
a fan of is saying this is good." Like, what I don't really care what anyone else is saying now at
Yeah,
this
like
point.
it kind of blinded out a lot of the hate.
Yeah.
Uh, it kind of blinded out all the hate. But what didn't blind out was like you go to school and it's like,
Uh,
yeah, see, I'm a senior in high school. So that kind of put a damper on things.
but I bet a
But
lot of that hate is because you had a viral video and people are talking about you.
it was, and I gained a lot of followers.
Jealousy.
Like I gained a lot of followers off of it. It did well. Like looking back at it, like it helped. Got good
Right.
calls. Like looking back at it, it helped. But also that video kind of put a chip on my shoulder and made me work a little harder. Uh,
Yeah.
because then, like it was kind of like, everybody was kind of supportive.
Mhm.
And it's funny how like and it's kind of, I guess it's like like a majority of a small town thing. Like, everybody's supportive until they're not,
Sure.
and like everybody was kind of like really supportive of it until that video. And then they wasn't supportive anymore. And so like it kind
Ah.
of put this chip on my shoulder of like, like I'm gonna prove everybody wrong.
Yeah, and then now you're like, "Look, I did
Yeah, now
achieve
I get
this."
messages from now I get messages from those people like, "Hey
Of
man,
course
like
you
love
do.
what you're doing." And it's like, "Yeah, man, thanks, man. Thanks."
You just sent him a screenshot of the mean thing they said, like, 2 3 years ago.
Yeah,
You're like,
it's a
"Remember
mental note
this?"
it's a mental note for sure. I'm nice about it because like, like if I'm nice to you, you'll go listen to my music, I guess. But I'm not gonna
100%.
forget what you did.
Yeah.
Like I ain't gonna forget about it, but
Oh, that's funny.
it's funny. It's really
Um,
like you see, like we'll be playing those shows. Like we played a Nashville show, and you'll see some of those people there.
you're like,
You know,
"Yeah, you bought a ticket for this."
and it's like I'm gonna tell you thank you, but I think it's funny. Kind of thing. Like he was that guy.
You're
So
right. Oh, that's funny. So, well, tell me about the moment you had then, with "Wanna Be Saved."
yeah, man. So that was, man. So that whole song, like I kind of come up with the idea for it on my front porch one night. I was going through like this really rough time,
Mhm.
and I was struggling, and I kind of come up with the idea. And so that was kind of the start of it, and I was in the shower. Like, I started writing it. I was in the shower, and I was like it was a rough night, and I was, like, crying in the shower one night, and I wrote the first verse and the chorus, like, just boom.
Wow.
Uh, I mean, it was probably 20 minutes. And so I put a little guitar thing to it, and I held on to it, and I had to write with, Graham Barham. And I was a big fan of Graham's work. He had a song called "Preachers Need People" that, I absolutely love that song. And so I was a fan of his stuff, and we got to write together. So I was like really pumped about the write. We went in there, and we was picking around on some stuff and wasn't really getting nowhere. It was just me and him. And then I just threw that idea out because we were kind of running low on time, and I had it half done. So I was like, I'm gonna throw this idea out. And he said, "Why?" He goes, "Man, are you sure you want to write that? Like, you've got it half done. You sure you want to put my name on it?" And I was like, "Yeah, dude. Like, it's not gonna get finished if we don't."
Take it to
Um,
the finish line.
so we wrote that second verse, and it was about the drive home. I thought to myself, if people could, like, I'd got to see the impact of music, and like, and I'd play that song for a couple people, and like one person in particular, got like really like you could see like the upsetness when they heard it because they were going through some stuff as well.
Mhm.
And I was like I don't want to make people feel like that, and if people could feel half of my pain when I wrote the song, like when they hear it, like I don't want anybody to hear it. Like, because that song was really expressing myself, like, because you get at some point you get away from expressing yourself in music, and it becomes about everybody else that listens to it.
Right.
And so, like, I actually got to express myself in that song. But I'm a firm believer, though, and like once you reach a point of like doing it, songs are more gifts. Like, like, they're gifts. If you write them just the way they're supposed to be written, like they come to you. Like being able to write music is a gift. It's not really a talent. I feel like,
Mhm.
it's not something you learn how to do, really. Like, you can't. That's why, like, they talk about the Belmont songwriter courses and stuff like that. Like, you can't teach somebody how to write a song.
Right.
You can't really teach somebody how to write a song.
I always find that interesting too. Like you'll go to there, Belmont or like Berkeley, and it's like it's not like you graduate and you're out like, okay, you did your 4 years, you have your
Yeah,
songwriting degree, and now you're gonna start writing songs that are gonna be on the radio. It's like, well, no, that's not how this
exactly.
works.
Yeah, and it's an overpriced degree for a music teacher. I mean, and like I have people like kids like reach out to me, high school kids, like, "Hey man, what do you think about the Belmont, music course?" And I'm like, "Man, like for business law or like music law, like it's amazing. But like for the songwriter course, like, dude, just start writing songs.
Yeah,
Like there's no right way to write a song.
yeah,
Like a lot of Zach Bryan stuff does not even like go along with how songs are supposed to be written.
like a song structure. Right,
Yeah,
right.
like stop and just start writing songs. Like the only way to get better at it is to do it.
Yeah. And do
And then
you sorry, go ahead.
yeah, and then
Didn't
just
cut you
like
off.
the realization of like from a faith standpoint, and like, like we're like, musicians are kind of messengers. So I
Mhm,
kind of just tell the message that comes to me, whatever I felt led to write that day, that's what I write that day. And
mhm.
there's a reason for everything, I feel like. So there's a reason I wrote that song, there's a reason for it to be heard. And
I
like
love
with
that.
"Wanna Be Saved," like I feel like just as much as songs come from a good spot, they also come from a bad spot.
Mhm.
And that's kind of what I felt with "Wanna Be Saved." Was it come from a bad spot, and that song wasn't meant to be heard. So I wasn't gonna put it out. And there was a guy in town that wanted to cut it. I told him no, like I didn't want the song to be heard. Like it wasn't supposed to be heard. And then it wasn't till like I was on the winning side of that battle, and I looked back at it, and I was like, man, like, dang. And so like one day I was like trying to figure out because I know my manager, well, she had reached out to me, about wanting to cut the song, and I was like, I don't really feel comfortable cutting the song. Like, no. And I was trying to figure it out because, a lot of people was like, "Man, this is a hit," stuff like that, and I was like, "Ah, man, I don't know." And then that bridge, where it flips to kind of, the bridge in that last chorus just hit me like a punch in the face. Like it just hit me. And I was like, "Man, like that's it." And I didn't change a single word.
Wow.
I didn't change a single word. It come in like 5 minutes. It was like a 5 minute thing. I didn't change a single word. I changed one word, take that back. When we was recording it, and it says, "I know I should open that book and turn to the page." The original word that I'd written down was "I think." And when I showed it to my producer, he said, no. He said, it's I know. He said, it's the only word that's got to be changed. He said, it's I know. We changed that one word, and that was kind of the rest of it. And it was like, I want to put that out because people can kind of hear my redemption and how I beat the story, and not how, and not
Oh,
how,
interesting. How was it?
how,
Wasn't just like a negative thing. Now it's flipped
yeah,
at the end.
exactly.
Like
Yeah.
there's
Now
like kind of
there's some
redemption.
positivities, there's some light shined on the darkness, and I
Yeah,
kind of want to keep that message like the whole time.
that's amazing. And so do you what then go do a version of it on your TikTok thing and
Yeah,
it
man. So
does well?
we were trying to figure it out, and we literally took and like we screen recorded the wavelength of just like it playing on my phone, and we just posted that, and
Oh,
it blew up.
wow.
That was the biggest. That was probably the most viral video we had of the sound.
Oh my
Um,
gosh. Just
yeah,
it wasn't like you had to go on there and
no,
you aren't playing it or
it was
singing a
the
little
first
piece
video we
of it.
posted of it.
Oh
First
my
video we
gosh.
posted of it. We posted a screen, and take in mind those screen recording videos never do well. Like they
Right,
do
because
not do
everyone's
well.
just flipping through like, oh, some phone.
Yeah, and there's no there's no background to catch your eye. There's no rhyme or reason why it did well, and
Except for
all I
it's a
can
great song.
and I pay it back to like a God thing almost. Like I wasn't supposed to put it out, wasn't supposed to put it out, and then boom, that hits me, and I'm supposed to put it out.
Yeah.
And I put it out like exactly when I felt like it should come out. You know,
Wow.
and so the first video, boom.
Dang. And
Um,
then that just gets people and not just having the song do well on TikTok doesn't necessarily mean people are gonna leave the app and then find you on Spotify. Like
yeah, for
that
sure.
makes it a real good, song,
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
Because now
And
you got to
what?
make somebody do another step or two, and
Yeah,
people
man.
don't want to
And
do that. They're like, I'm not gonna leave the app to go listen to it. I'm just gonna, I like the sound. I'm gonna
yeah,
go keep going
and
on with my
they
life.
really connected with it, man. They really
Yeah.
connected with it, and like the win of it for me, like it made all these charts and stuff like that, and you know, doing like a million streams a week almost,
Yeah. It's crazy.
and like like it's cool, but like everybody I talk with, like our producer got almost mad at me one day because he was like talking about it. I was like, yeah, man, it's cool. I was like, I don't really care. Like that does like what's cool about it to me is I've got message after message after message after message of people saying this song's helped me. This song
Hmm.
like is getting me through a hard time. Like this song is my story. Like this song is helping me. Like all of those messages are what make all of this go round.
Hmm.
Because I mean, music is like I said, like I go back to like a musician's a messenger. Like,
Yeah.
like I don't care about anything else but like affecting people's lives in a positive way.
Yes.
Like I don't care about like the money, the fame, like the plaques, the like none of that means anything. And that was kind of the cool thing about growing up around those plaques and people who had done it in music. Like I learned that that wasn't the importance of it.
Yeah. It's
And I
like you
learned
get that, and then what? You.
exactly like
Yeah.
and I learned that like it's not that cool because I grew up around them. Like the plaques and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
learned, although I do want a plaque on my wall. I
I
have
was gonna
made
say
like
you'll get one, and then
like
it'll be
I want
cool.
I want a plaque, like just because like I'm a big like oh people said I couldn't do that and it happened.
Hell yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like
Exactly.
because criticism comes. Like I'm sure you can read through the comments of my videos and there's criticism somewhere. It's
Yeah.
never gonna go away. So like I like to keep some things on my walls and stuff like that. Just kind of like oh look like when when I see those hate comments because we all read them every now and then. You
Mhm.
know, like when we read those hate comments, it's like I look around and like oh people said I couldn't do that either. So I guess I can.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
uh,
Exactly.
and so that was kind of like I want a plaque for that, but not for like the oh look what I did. Like it's more of like people said I couldn't do that either, so I guess I should keep going.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah. 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 Your
so
own your own victory, your own validation.
yeah, it's like a motivational thing.
Yeah.
Everybody said I couldn't do that, and I did that, so what's stopping me now?
Right. Right. And you recently
Um,
did what, the all out acoustic sessions?
yeah, man, that was cool.
And
That
but
was
you also did an EP that
Yeah,
was
so we did the
Want to Be
Wanna Be
Saved.
Saved EP, which was super cool because I think we did this EP like a lot different, and we're kind of doing the way we're doing our projects is a lot different.
Mhm.
Is we're putting out a lot of singles and then just tagging on like two songs and just packaging it all at the end,
Okay.
and just package and making it a package deal at the end, and just putting them out mostly singles, packaging at the end, and then we're doing like the entire EP, and then the all out acoustic sessions was that entire EP, just
Acoustic, right?
acoustically.
Yeah. Which is brilliant.
Um, And there's one thing that I'm hugely proud of, like on that acoustic EP, is almost every single song I did a different key. You know, a lot of
Oh,
guys
then the
like
original or just in
yes,
general?
yeah,
Oh, wow. I'll have to go
a
back and
lot
listen to them all.
a lot of guys, they'll take like so they don't have to work any harder. They'll take their like the actual vocal
Oh,
from
and
the
just
from
move it
the actual
onto an
record and
acoustics.
just put like a guitar, just put like an acoustic guitar to it, and that's the acoustic song. And I wanted to
Oh,
like make sure nobody ever thought that I was doing that. And so like those acoustic songs, all but the "Want to Be Saved" acoustic, are me sitting there with a guitar,
wow.
like one take. They're 1 to 2 takes, no more than 2 takes. Just me and guitar in a chair with a mic.
Just live.
That's live as it can get. Like that's how I sound on a stage every night.
Wow. I love
Uh,
that. That's really
and
cool.
and I did them all in a different key than what than the original record's in.
Was that
So
difficult to kind of like now
no, because
rethink of your
for some odd reason I always played them in a different key. Like anyways, like
Oh.
I play them on stage in a different key than what the record is.
Oh, interesting.
So like, but I wanted it to feel like I didn't just cop out, and just cut the vocal off the actual song.
Hmm.
So and it's kind of a cool thing for me to just play them, and it shows my vocal range a little better. Like
Hmm.
I don't have to play it, like I can do it any key you want to do it in.
Yes.
And so like I changed the key up, played it in a totally different key, and kind of, ran with it like that.
Amazing, man.
Yeah.
And then with the song I heard, I think is coming out next month. It's called Here We Go Again.
Yeah, so that's December, like 1st of December.
Okay.
So we're gonna do that, and
Talk to me about
we're
that song.
yeah, man, that was a cool ride. Me and Ben Roberts have written a lot together, and it was me, Ben Roberts, and Nick Bailey. And uh, I'd never met Nick, and we sit down, and Nick played that track. That's kind of the track behind that. We added to it a little bit,
Hmm.
but the kind of the bass track to it, kind of guitar lift that's in it. He played that, and I was like, man, that's it. So we kind of sit down, and Ben got quiet. Ben's not a really quiet writer, but Ben got quiet. Me and Nick was just kind of learning each other, kind of meeting each other for the first time. Ben goes, guys, I got the chorus, and it was pretty much that entire chorus. So then we sit
No
down and we
way.
wrote the verses, and it was a cool process. And I got my producer Brandon Manley to kind of come in there and tweak it up a little bit. And so Nick and Brandon produced it together. Uh, so it's such a cool record to me.
Yeah, it
And
is. It's a cool, really cool
I think
song.
we're gonna do some kind of we're throwing around the ideas of doing something cool because we put out 2 versions of every song.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
we put out 2 versions of every song, and so we're throwing around some ideas kind of with the second version of that song, like, maybe an EDM version, kind of
Oh,
get it
wow.
playing
Yeah,
in
that'd be
clubs
a
and stuff like
twist.
that. Because I don't know if the song's gonna resonate acoustic. Like,
Mhm.
kinda Wrong Truck, like the streams on the Wrong Truck acoustic didn't kinda do what I wanted it to, but I looked back at it, like I learned from it, like, those pop songs like that really don't resonate acoustic.
Mhm.
So like maybe like an EDM version or something like that would be cool. So we're throwing around ideas like the second version of the song, kind of
That's
pull it out.
awesome.
Yeah, man, I think it'll be cool.
And then you have some, I would imagine other songs
Yeah,
done
man,
or
we got
ready and writing.
dude, we've got such a list of songs. I think we got like 11 or 12, songs laid out, that are good enough to cut right now.
That's great.
And I think that's kind of what is helping this whole thing go around is like I pride myself on being a writer first. Uh,
Mhm.
my mom's godfather told me when I was a kid, he said, good writers hang around forever. He said, good singers are short lived. He
Like
said,
that.
because even when your artist career is over, you can still be a writer. He said, good
Mhm.
writers live forever. He said, good singers are short lived. So I've always took pride in writing. Writing was my first love. And so it's kind of like, I feel like I'm not a bad writer. And so we have like a really big list of songs. And that's kind of the upper hand versus, on this TikTok wave, I feel like, is a lot of these TikTok guys really aren't writing a lot of songs. They write one song and it blows up. You know what I'm saying?
Right, and that's
They
it,
write,
right?
yeah. And so, like, how do you expect him to be the best writer? He wrote one cool song and it blew up.
Mhm.
But like I've been writing music for forever. And
Yeah, by the
priding
time
myself.
the
I was proud.
one by the time "Wanna Be Saved" came out, it was like, not only do you have that, but you have a whole back catalog of songs that people
I
can
have a
go
whole
listen to.
catalog, and a lot of these songs, like I've written, I think I don't know. These songs just keep getting better. It's like every week there's a better song that we add to the pile.
Yeah,
So I mean, we got 12. I think there's 12 or 13 songs we have laid out. And working with Missy Gallimore, like she's one of the best A&Rs to ever walk the streets of Nashville. And so like finding outside songs is like what she does. And
Mhm.
so like I'm not one of those guys that, oh, I'm gonna write every single song I ever put out.
Yeah,
Because at the end of the
you'll
day,
cut other
yeah,
rights.
because I mean I feel like great songs need to be heard.
Mhm.
Like great songs were meant to be heard. So if I hear one of those great songs, like that's meant to be heard, I'm gonna sing it. I'm gonna let
Yes.
people hear. Like it doesn't matter that I didn't write it. Somebody else wrote it, and it was, it's meant to be heard.
Mhm. I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you've done some real I mean, you just played the Exit In, what, 2 days ago or something like
Yeah,
that?
man, that was a blast.
And you were on tour with Warren Zaders, who's great. I've had him on my podcast twice, and
Yeah, we're
you've been
going
doing
on the
some
road
great things.
March 2024 on the West Coast. I think first stop San Diego.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
Yep,
okay.
first stop San Diego.
Oh, I didn't
Yeah.
realize that this was this. Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
that makes
this
sense.
coming March.
Coming
March
March. Yeah, because
2024.
the Pretty Little Poison just came out.
Yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, yeah, yeah, you're doing San Diego.
yeah.
First stop on the tour. He's
First
great,
stop
man.
is San
He
Diego.
I've had him on, like I said, twice. So that's a great mix too, you and
Yeah, man.
him.
I hear our fan bases are a lot alike. The people over at CAA was like, man, y'all have a lot of the similar fan base. It's gonna be a great time. So I'm pumped.
Oh, that'll be exciting. Will that be your first like big tour?
Yeah, man, we did some stuff. Yeah, that'll be the most I've played like tour wise. Like we've been traveling, playing a lot, but it's
Mhm.
kind of been like this small thing here. Like we'll play like a couple shows like with Kid G, and then I'll play like the next
Oh, I
couple
love Kid
weekends.
G too. I've had him on my show
Yeah,
too.
man,
He's
he's such a
great.
like yeah, man. We played like I think we played 4 shows a couple months ago with Kid G.
Mhm.
And so like that took up 2 weekends, and then the other 2 weekends I did my own thing, like in different cities, and then we did 2 weekends with Colin Stow that was on American Idol, and
Yeah.
then like the other 2 weekends I would film my own thing. But this is the first time I've had the full month taken up with one person.
Yeah, you're gonna be gone. I mean, you're going all the way from San Diego, West Coast, up into, Quebec,
Canada,
and
yeah,
yeah,
when we
man,
end, I
that's
think we
cool.
start out
Toronto.
in I think we start in San Diego and end in Montreal, Quebec.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah,
Well, I love what you're doing. Congratulations on everything. And I mean, the CAA thing is huge. I just was
yeah,
just
I'm so
announced, and
so pumped about that, man.
I'm excited for you to release this song in December. I'm glad I got a chance to hear it.
Yeah, man.
And I appreciate your time, Austin. Thank you so much, man, for
Hey,
doing
thank you
this.
for having me, dude. It was a blast, man.
I have one more question,
Yeah,
even though
what's up,
you've been
dude?
giving amazing advice throughout this entire conversation.
Yep.
Do you have any for aspiring artists?
Man, TikTok, because at the end of the day, it's all about how much you want it. It's all about how hard you're going to work and be the hardest working person in the room. Uh, don't sit in a room and have to wonder if you're the hardest working person here. Leave no doubt that you're the hardest working person here. Uh, so I mean, work harder than everybody, and then keep God in it. That's always a big thing. I had a guy walk up to me not too long ago and was like, "Man, how do you stay happy in such a cutthroat town?" And it's the fact of like, if this isn't my purpose, like if all this crumbled tomorrow and this isn't my purpose, that's totally fine. It was a stepping stone to get me to my purpose, and
Uh,
kind of keep God in it. Because if you don't have God in it, this town will chew you up and spit you out, 100%.
yeah,
Uh,
dude.
and so keep God at the forefront of it and work hard.
Bringing it backward.